Alright, here we are, guys. Going to give it one, maybe two more shots, depending on how this goes. So we are in the experimental version of the fly-by-wire A32NX. Maybe that's causing problems. So if this one crashes, then what we'll probably do is jump into the development version. Does look like something's a little off with the textures around the window. I don't know why I have spirit cups in here, because this is a Delta airplane, and you'll never catch Delta pilots drinking out of a spirit cup. Anyways, alright, here we go. So we do have the batteries on, ground power is connected, and we'll start over with our flow. Net. Delta 2541 Atlanta to St. Louis en route time is hour 19 minutes. For our weight and balance, got a block fuel of 14.5, zero fuel weight of 126.8. That's loaded on the airplane. We will request an Addons. Alright, so now we're going to do our diffs rip. Starting with the D for data. Make sure our nav database is current. It is. Init. Atlanta, St. Louis, Delta 2541, cost index of 40. Cruising at flight level 340. Flight plan, departing off 8 right on the pencil to departure. The JAACE transition insert, St. Louis, arrival, ILS 12 right. On the boost 3, Sadin via, clear that out, and then the Nashville transition. Cool. Clear out this discon. We'll have another discon on the arrival. We'll leave that one. Everything else looks good. Secondary flight plan, we can't use RadNav. Put Atlanta. Hard tune that. Init V page. Zero fuel weight and CG. Block fuel 14.5. And performance flaps 2. Takeoff. Flex of 60 degrees. Transition altitude, as we all know, in the States, 1800 or 18,000 feet, and then we got our V speeds. NITO constraints, VORs. Top altitude on this departure is 10,000 feet. I'm kind of scared to print the Addons because that's when it messed up last time. Cross our fingers. Alright, so the altimeter is 3012. Is set. All that looks good. Turn on our seatbelt signs now that we got fuel on board. And we'll start our APU. Looking for the flaps open message. While it's doing that, finish getting the rest of this set up the way I like. Close the cockpit door. Actually, can't do that until jet bridge is pulled and main cabin door is closed. Alright, so we got our flap open. Start the APU. And we'll turn our fuel pumps on. While waiting on the APU, we'll do a little quick departure brief. So we are at Bravo 7. We'll push out, turn our nose to the north. Taxi out over to 8 right for departure. We got 9,999 feet of dry groove runway. Any issues before V1, we'll stop and assist on the runway. And after V1, we're going flying. Departing on the Pencil 2 departure. Off 8 right, we'll climb to a heading of 095 degrees to intercept a course of 082 degrees to Roney, then depicted route to Pencil, maintain 250 knots to Hoyt, top altitude 10,000 feet, which is in the FCU. So as you can see, we're going to do this here, and then at Hoyt we can speed up if we're above 10,000. Cool. Departure brief is completed. Bleed on external power. Let's get rid of, close the cargo door, get rid of the power, pull the jet bridge. Now we can turn on the beacon light, let everybody on the ground know we're ready. Then we'll do our before start checklist all the way. Before start checklist, maintenance log and tells, onboard and check, copter prep is complete, gear pins, covers are removed, signs on, auto, ADIRS, nav, fuel. Gotta get the sim brief out. Alright, for the fuel, our min takeoff is 12.5 and we have 14.5 on board. Altimeters 3012 set, EFB is checked, windows, doors and slides closed and armed, beacons on, thrust levers idle, parking brakes on, transponder is in auto. Before start checklist complete. Alright. Do believe we're ready to go. Looks like we are. And we'll get Senior Tug to come and hook up. Alrighty, tug is hooked up. I think we are ready to go. We'll release parking brakes. And off we go. Saw the chrono for our block time. There's Delta over there floating. Wish they could fix that. And big old A330 over there floating as well. All the Airbuses float for some reason. You got a swang, dang it. You get those crappy pushback drivers. Have to zigzag airplanes all over the place. Alright, I think that'll work for us. Set parking brakes. And let Senior Tug head on about his merry way. Alright. Now let's start numero uno. Engine mode selector, 2 normal. Engine 1. Gotta lock that door. Whoa. Got rotation on the N2 and rotation on the N1. So we got fuel flow. As you can see, we'll taxi north to spot 3 north, and then looks like Foxtrot over to hotel, short 8 right. Alright, got a good start on engine number 1. Now we'll go for number 2. My good friend Mike painted this airplane for me, and he likes to try to make some more classic looking engine fans. He doesn't like the modern Neo engine fans that have that silver lining across the leading edge. So as you can see, these, well, now it's showing silver because the way the sim does the engine fans, but before it was showing solid black fans, which is kind of decent looking. Soon we'll have the classic A320 with the CFM engines. Looking forward to that. Alright, so we got a good start on engine number 2. So now we can do our after start flow. Engine mode selector normal, armor spoilers, reset rudder trim, flaps 2, TCAS TA trim 30%, CG is set, and since 2-engine taxi, we'll kill the APU. After start checklist, engine anti-ice is off, yellow pump off, rudder trim is 0, after start checklist is complete, brakes released, let's rock and roll. Brake check, pressure's green. Now that we're on our way, we'll get rid of my face and just enjoy the sim. Go ahead and do our flight controls check. We'll be hard pressed to do it once we get out on the outside of the ramp. So flight controls check. Full left. Full right, neutral, pull up, pull down, neutral, rudder, full left, and full right, neutral. Flight controls check is complete. Once we get on a straightaway, we'll take care of the before takeoff flow. See, got other aircraft on approach. So we got Fox 2 right here, and we'll be taking the next one, which is hotel. One thing I did miss after the second engine started was to run the chrono for the 3-minute warm-up. I'm sure it hasn't been 3 minutes yet. So we'll just hold short here and we'll get all that done. Parking brake set. Alright, weather radar, which is in-op on the experimental version of this airplane, as well as the terrain on the ND, not that we'll be using that today. So weather radar, predicted wind shear, TARA, auto brake, status, TO config, and we'll ding the flight attendants.
Flight attendants, please prepare for takeoff.
Alright, before takeoff checklist all the way, gross weight comparison is complete, pitch trim 30% CG set, V1, VRB2 flex is 126, 127, 131 flex 60, flaps config 2, flight instruments checked, flight controls checked, ECAM mode takeoff all green, ECAM status has been checked, predicted wind shears on auto, TCAS code set TRA, cabin crews advised, main bridge complete, takeoff runway 26 left is confirmed, fuel 12.5 is required, and we've got 14.3 on board. Engine mode selectors normal, bleed packs are set. Before takeoff checklist is complete. Now, assuming it's been the 3 minutes. We'll get underway. Clear on the approach, clear right. Some of the stuff I'm going to say out loud is just what I'm doing, as well as the appropriate callouts versus just the appropriate callouts. For anybody who's trying to learn, a little Airbus. Alright. 40%. Looking for symmetrical thrust. We got it. Stick pressure down. Flex D10. Toga. Got an issue with the thrust levers. Neutral by 100, thrust is set. V1 handoff. And we got positive brake. Gear up, disarm spoilers. Pitching for 15 degrees. Flight directors. (1,500 feet is acceleration altitude. There it is. Positive trend on the airspeed. We'll thrust climb. Climb. We'll open climb. Flap 1 speed. Speed checks, flaps 1. And there's flaps up speed, speed check, checked. Flaps up. After takeoff checklist, landing gears up, flaps retracted, bleed packs are set, APU is off. After landing check or after takeoff checklist is complete. Started to veer off the runway there on takeoff. I got my eyes fixed too heavily on the PFD. There's an aircraft out ahead of us. He's got gear down. He's flying the wrong direction. Airport's behind us. Alright, so we got to maintain 250 knots to Hoyt. We'll just keep the climb coming. Hey, Grove-matic. Good to see you over here, brother. Thanks for stopping by and checking it out. That Speed Alt Star. I'm still hand flying the airplane. Top altitude on this departure is 10,000 feet, 250 to Hoyt. we're going to try to maintain. We are flying the experimental version of the fly-by-wire today with the new flight plan manager in the McDo, which so far in the little bit of testing that I've done works really well. Only downside is no weather radar or terrain on the ND, as you can see for the NOP stickers on the dash. Alright, we'll go autopilot 1. Check the plate, make sure there's no other altitude constraints. There's not. Clear to climb. We'll take it up to flight level 200. Thrust climb, open climb. Yeah, Grover, I've always been the opposite. I started, actually before we get into that, it's 10,000 feet. Landing lights off, wing lights off, ding, the flight attendants. I've always kind of been opposite. I started my aviation career about 11 years ago. I started on the ramp for Delta, throwing bags and working gate and ticket and all that kind of stuff. So I got thrown into aviation in the airline, so that's pretty much all I know. I've got a lot of good friends that fly GA stuff, and they'll start talking about airplanes that I have no clue. But then the funny part is they struggle to recognize super popular airliners like a 321 or a 320 or a 737 or whatever, which has always kind of been weird to me, because working in professional aviation in the airlines, most of the people I'm around are just like me. You always see that meme of somebody staring into, or it's a goat staring into the sky with sunglasses on, identifying an airplane. That's myself as well as many others. So yeah, so I've kind of always been an airliner guy, but I've always wanted to learn some GA stuff, whether it's like single or twin piston aircraft, all the way up to Gulfstreams. I wish there was a Gulfstream for flight sim. That would be awesome to fly. Casual simmer. Yeah, man. In fact, funniest part of the whole simming thing, for at least for myself, if it wasn't for the flight sim, I wouldn't have a career in aviation. I always grew up going to like air shows and stuff, and I always thought that I would never be smart enough to work in the airlines. And I got out of high school and I got FSX and started learning a few things here and there, and then started working for Delta and got to talk to pilots and ask questions and learn, and would take what I would learn from them, go home and apply it on a simulator, like how to shoot an ILS or stuff like that, and learning like aircraft systems and all. And over time got to the point where I could fly a full IFR flight, shooting ILSs down to minimums and all kinds of stuff. And it really just fueled my addiction to aviation and wanting to learn more and pursue a career in professional aviation. And now I'm a dispatcher for a major Part 121 carrier. So you can learn a ton from the sim. I'm here in Dayton, so I grew up on trips to the National Guard Museum. Sweet. I've never been up there. One of my coworkers actually lives in Dayton. I'm gonna have to go fly up there and see him and make him take me to that museum. I love going to military museums. There's 1,000 above transition altitude, standard, and standard. Can't forget standby. I just went to the USS Alabama in Mobile, Alabama last week. Toured the battleship, and then they also have a big hangar with a bunch of airplanes in there. They had SR-71, which was super cool to look at. Keep keep the climb going up to our final 34,000. There we go. Thrust climb, open climb. And I don't think there's a whole lot of SR-71s around to see at museums and stuff, so really neat to see one of those. They had an F-18A model, bunch of stuff, and then they also had USS Drum, which was a World War II, if I'm not mistaken. I think it was a World War II submarine. It's pretty cool to look at. Also went to the Pensacola Naval Air Station Museum. That's a big one. Pensacola's home of the Blue Angels, so went out there and checked out all the stuff that they've got. A12 here. Seconds going. Mach 3 standing still. I'm not familiar with the A12. Let me look that thing up. Oh, okay, so it's like a shorter version of the SR-71. I didn't even know this thing existed. I done learned something today. Thanks, buddy. Appreciate you telling me about that. That's pretty cool. Mini SR-71. Its predecessor. Huh. Had no idea. I guess that's how it is for airplanes that steal all the glory. You don't hear about predecessors and stuff. Alright, it's been a pretty smooth ride so far. We'll let them up. Not that I'm running any kind of simulated passengers or anything. And we are 8 miles from Pencil, so what we'll do is we're going to cross-check Pencil with fuel that we should have on board versus what we have on board. So we should have 12.4 and we've got 12. So we're overburning by about 300 pounds, which is a bit abnormal for a Neo, but we planned a flex takeoff, which is a reduced engine power takeoff, 60 degrees, which is that's fairly reduced power. I had an issue once I stood the throttles up. It was telling me that the throttles weren't in flex, so I just went ahead and went toga, and that toga power probably burned a bit of that extra fuel. Alright, so there's Pencil. Cruising at 34,000 feet today, and we're flying a cost index of 40, but I don't think they've modeled cost index in this airplane in the fly-by-wire. In case you don't know, cost index is basically like how fast you want to fly. So like in dispatch, if I've got a flight that's over blocking, say the route's a little bit longer than normal because of weather or whatever, but we're still trying to make that on-time arrival, I'll increase the cost index from anywhere from 0 to 99, 0 being the slowest, 99 being the fastest. If you plan 0, it's going to fly slow, burn less gas, obviously take longer to get there, and then 99, you're going to fly faster, probably fly a little bit lower than normal as well, but burn a lot more gas. So cost index is something that airlines do as a fuel savings, money saving strategy, and we'll use cost index tactically. The Dark series of videos, Dark Skies, Dark Seas, Dark 5, etc. are really good for amazing stories about observed aircraft. Huh, I will definitely look that up. I don't know if you're familiar, what's it called? It was just on the tip of my brain. It's a story told by a famous SR-71 pilot. Oh man, now I'm gonna have to find it. I'm gonna find it and put it in the chat for you, because it's an awesome and funny story that only aviation geeks would probably like. Oh, the speed SR-71 Blackbird speed check. That's what it's called. Alright, I'm gonna copy this. Yeah, I don't even have to, yeah, I just got back to the chat. Yeah, the speed check, that's the one. I thought that was hilarious the first time I heard it. I've tried to tell it to like coworkers of mine, but you know, it's never as good as the original way that you first listen to or see a story. What's going on with I get a chuckle every time. Same here. Well, it looks like Blue Stream is up. Looks like it's just starting. Blue's got some good stuff. Looks like a nice dude too. Let's get some outside shots of this airplane. Hopefully it's not too loud. Good buddy of mine painted the livery for this airplane. I thought it turned out pretty nice. It's the dirty version of the Delta. Just noticed. I see that winglet's white. Gee, I think he painted this before they came out with the new non-mirrored versions. That's probably why it's supposed to be repainted so it has the correct winglet. You can really see that dirt on the other side. And he was chatting with me about it when he was going to do it, and I told him to make sure that you really emphasize the dirt around the main cabin door. Those jet bridge canopies get so much dirt on the airplanes. That's where you see the most dirt. And he got a fair amount, painted a fair amount on this one, but he's got an A330 for the Project Mega Pack A330 that looks real nice. It's another Delta paint scheme. But the way the sun's shining, you can't see the dirt on the main cabin doors as good as here in the shadows. Bill Engvall's story about going up with the Thunderbirds had me laughing so hard. Pulling the car over. The weathering on it is wonderful. I have to check out the Bill Engvall deal. I don't think I've seen that one. I've seen, obviously, any av geek has seen plenty of airplanes, or plenty videos of like Thunderbirds, Blue Angels taking up civilians and people passing out in the back and puking and stuff. Those always crack me up. But I love it when it's a, oh, there's nice mountains down there. When it's like a professional athlete and they're all big and tough, and then they take them in the back and just make them pass right out. That always gets me going. Yeah, my buddy Mike, he did. I think he did a pretty good job on this one. He's got a lot of liveries on FlightSim.2. If you fly the Airbus or any of the airliners, I don't remember what his name is. I think it's MV, like Mike Victor 757, something like that. You'll be able to find him on there. He's got some good stuff. So you can even see a lot of the, well, let me get my face off here. There we go. You can even see a lot of the grime that he tried to paint in the engine cowlings. He did a pretty good job. I say pretty good job, like I know how to paint an airplane. I ain't got a clue how to do any of the painting stuff. In fact, it's kind of funny. Him and I actually met from FlightSim.2 and got to chatting a lot and became good buddies. And the funny part about him, he likes flight sim, but he enjoys the creative side of creating liveries for whatever airplanes. He likes painting the liveries and making liveries more than he does flying or learning any sort of flight sim stuff. which I thought was pretty cool. I always had a vision for Spirit airplane, that take a Spirit airplane and put a blacktail on it. So I presented the idea to him, and if you go to flightsim.2 and you look up spirit.com or Spirit Airlines, you'll see a blacktail, a couple different blacktails, and those liveries were all from me and him kind of putting our heads together and coming up with the idea for a blacktail Spirit airplane. I think it looked pretty good. If Spirit was smart, they should make a special livery for one of those, but you know Spirit's cheap, so probably won't. This black paint's too heavy. Alright, let's see where we're at. Letter. And at letter, supposed to have 10.8. We've got 10.8. So looks like now we are starting to underburn. We've caught back up on our burn, so I'd anticipate that we'll land with more than what we're planned with, which is always great. A little intimidated by the airliners just yet. Still getting more. How long have you been in the flight simming world? Out of curiosity. Cockpit's getting a little dark. Well, the dash is anyways. Speaking of the DA62, again, I don't know as much about GA stuff, but I think that let me look before I even open my mouth. I know there's a bigger and a smaller version. Anyways, I'm pretty sure it's the DA62. Whichever one is, I think the bigger variant. Anyways, one of my best friends used to be a cop in Memphis, and he became good friends with a good buddy of mine who's a FedEx captain, and made him want to pursue being a pilot. So him and his wife, they sold their 2-story brick house in the suburbs, sold all their toys and stuff. He went to Flight Safety International in Vero Beach, Florida, and got all of his ratings, and then from there moved to Orlando to be a flight instructor at L3 Flight School. And at L3, their twin engine program, I'd actually rather fly the DA42. Maybe that's the one. I can't remember if they got the bigger one or the smaller one. Anyways, they run one of those two variants. And they got the all glass and all that stuff. My buddy was so excited to flight instruct one of those things, saying how nice the airplane is. He would like to buy one day, like way on down the road, if he's some highfalutin wide body FedEx captain, which I'm sure that's most people's dream who want to make a lot of money in the airline industry. But anyways, when you mentioned the DA, that's what I thought of. My buddy wanting to fly one of those and get one of those. Let's see, less than a year. Also have a crap computer, so I'm not able to run more detailed aircraft. Took a second job to save up for a nice gaming rig. Yeah, man. Look, I don't think. I mean, maybe it's different now that Microsoft Flight Sim is like such a big deal, like across the world and in the gaming world, because like Microsoft Flight Simulator 10 and Prepared and X-Plane. I mean, X-Plane with like hundreds of gigabytes of add-ons and
what do they call it, like mesh or whatever for ground textures, but they don't really look anything as good as this. And I think them, Microsoft and Asobo, making this a replication of our world has brought a lot of people in. But before this, the flight sim community was not even remotely close to as big as it is now. Peripherals weren't as popular as they were and hard to get. And I mean, the flight sim community is completely different now, which I think is a great thing. I mean, I think obviously any flight simmer who's been around for a long time like I have thinks it's a great thing, because it's only going to bring us more like airplanes and peripherals and whatever. But as far as the computer stuff goes, I feel you. I started on a laptop with FSX. Now, I mean, it wasn't even a gaming laptop. I didn't know anything about PC gaming or nothing back then. I was always playing PlayStation. So I started on a laptop, put everything on low settings, and I was just trying to learn a little bit here and there. And I just had a little joystick trying to figure it out. Then as I got a little more serious, I think I went to Best Buy one day, and I brought the game with me. I was like, hey, here's the game, here's the specs, I want a computer that will play this. And they point me to some $500-600 Dell desktop, just your regular desktop. And so I take it home, I put FSX on there, crank everything all the way up, right? I'm expecting full-fledged max graphics. No, not even close. It was no better than the little laptop that I had before that. I was pretty pissed. I think I went through 2 or 3 computers like that, just low end, whatever, not knowing anything about computers. And maybe 5 years ago, 4 or 5 years ago, guy that I got hired with at Trans-States Airlines in St. Louis, which is where we're flying to, he was a computer specialist in the Navy, and I'd saved up a bunch of money and worked my ass off, worked a bunch of overtime to save up money. I was like, alright, $2,000, do your best. And he built me a computer, had a 1080 in it, I think an i7. I don't even remember what I think it was 32 gigs of RAM, something like that. Maybe it was 16. But anyways, it was pretty decent. It could run stuff medium-ish. And that's FSX prepared, which aren't nearly as optimized as what you're seeing here. I had that for about 4 years or so, and once they announced this game and it was getting ready to come out, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna bite the bullet. So I did. Went to Jetline Systems, Frugal Sim. I don't know if you know of him or not on YouTube. He's pretty famous in the YouTube world, although he just quit YouTube. Frugal Sim had a sponsorship with Jetline Systems, and I was really impressed with their computer. Jetline's just an hour and a half away from me. I live in Orlando, they're in Tampa. So I reached out to them, went to Jetline in person. They put me on, I got to preview Microsoft Flight Simulator before it came out. They put me on a full motion sim, they put me on a VR sim, bunch of stuff, just awesome people. Me and Tony, who works there, we got together. I was like, alright, here's what I want. And he even kind of reeled me back. I was talking about getting an i9 processor, and he's like, hey, honestly, from our testing and what Microsoft Flight Sim does, you don't need the i9. If you get the i9, you'll need a bigger cooler, you'll need a bigger case, because it runs hotter, all this stuff. If money's not an issue, go for it. But if you want to save a little bit of money, do that. That's how awesome these people are. So now I've got a pretty nice rig. It's got a 3080 in it, Intel i7, 64 gigs, all that stuff. But I've been on the same road that you're on, and it's hard, especially when you just want to max it out and look at the pretty graphics and all that kind of stuff. But man, just keep hammering away, or this is not advisable. This is what I did for this computer. I paid off a credit card, and then like a dumbass turn around and put a $4,500 computer on it. But you can always do that. They got a credit card. But this computer and the flight sim itself and the learning, the perspective that it gives me of like what my pilots are doing and what they're seeing, for me is priceless and brings me a lot of joy in life. My girlfriend could probably say she hates it because the computer steals me away from her a lot. But man, if it's something that you really fall in love with, like I have, when the day comes and you can buy you a nice gaming rig, do it. All right, let me catch up on your comments. X-Plane 11. Double boot PC so I can run both. I never thought about doing that, the dual boot. I have given X-Plane 11 a decent shot. I've got the Flight Factor 7.5, 7.6, and the Airbus. I do want to get the Tolus 321 with the 321 Neo add-on and give that a shot. But with the Phoenix 320 coming out soon, I probably just won't even mess with it. Because I know I won't fly X-Plane much. I have to sink so much money into add-ons to make it look even remotely good. It's nice for learning the basics. It is. With aviation, get familiar with the G1000 and whatnot. Just get a little boring because I can't connect to that sim and maintain frame rate at the same time. Waiting for chip prices to come down so I can buy a voice screen. I think the prices should come down soon because they're getting ready to come out with the new generation of, at least Intel generation of processors, I believe, and that should maybe drop prices down a bit. Home ownership, yeah. Changes your spending priorities. Just drop $400 on a new lawnmower. And $1,300 on a new garage. Oh shit! Why'd you have to get a new garage door? Is it just not working, or somebody drive a car through it? I want a honeycomb yolk so bad I can taste it. I have one of those. Honestly, I don't fly with it much. It's sitting up in my closet, mainly because there's no Boeing for this sim. And you have to mount it on a plate that sticks to your desk. So if you like playing other games, then, oh man, don't worry about being a chatterbox. I think you're the only person watching this, so I appreciate your chatterboxiness. Plus, I'm from Louisiana. I'm from the South, and we get the gift of gab very naturally. But anyways, it comes with, you have to stick this plate that sticks, like uses a micro suction cup and like sticky adhesive stuff to your desk that you mount it on, which works great. The thing doesn't budge. But then if you want to play any other games where you just use mouse and keyboard and stuff, then it's in the way. I got a big mouse pad. It's like, you know, takes up a huge portion of the desk. You can't have that on there. It's got its pros and cons. I might try to resolve this one day by getting that the same chair that Blue's got, as well as XP72. Their next level racing light flight sim cockpit seats. I might get one of those. I don't have the room in my current computer room. As you can see, like, I've got this recliner and TV back here. Well, I guess the other way around. That's my girlfriend's like little PlayStation area. I made that for her for Christmas so that she can be in here while I'm flight simming. But I digress. So I don't have enough room. I want to put the cockpit like on the side of my desk, but then I'd have to have a like very heavy duty swing arm because I also have a 49-inch ultra wide monitor which you can't even stream on. So it's kind of pointless to have. But that would have to swing over, and it would just, I don't know, it's a pain in the butt. So until I figure out that, I probably won't touch the yoke much until, I guess, PMDG puts out their 7.3. Then I just can't bring myself to fly a Boeing with a joystick, so probably break it out then. Alright, let's see, we are over Nashville. Start getting ready to descend here pretty soon. Alright, Nashville, we're supposed to have 9.5. And we've got, hey, look at there, 9.5 now. Typically the pilots will round it up so I do the same thing. But yeah, home ownership definitely changes some things, which I can't even speak to that. I rent as of right now. My girlfriend and I are looking to maybe buy sometime in the near future. But I got some stuff going on in my airline that's got to be settled first. Got to figure out what they're going to do, which will determine where I will be before I can make any home ownership decisions. But mortgages and rent, definitely still a lot of money. Was ancient from the 60s and the springs nearly rusted out. I want the whole shebang replaced. Yeah, sounds like my parents' garage door at their house. In fact, I think we moved in there when I was young. We had a crappy garage door, and I think they replaced it, and it needs to be replaced again. I wouldn't be surprised if it don't even work at all. I wouldn't be surprised if even if you try to lift it up by hand, if it won't even go all the way up. Alright, so drinking my Black Rifle coffee. So on our flight plan, we've got 265 miles left of our route. We can go to the prog page, and we'll put in St. Louis, and then we're planning to land on runway, I don't want to leave this page, 12 right. Yes, 12 right. And so this will give us our bearing and our distance from the threshold of the runway in a straight line from our current position. So 220 miles in a straight line, 261 on the flight plan. Obviously, we're going to be flying the flight plan, so this is what we're more concerned with. General rule of thumb that I've seen in the Airbus from anywhere with like 34 to 38,000 feet in the Airbus. Typically going to start your descent around like 120 miles or so. Since we don't have true VNAV to tell us when to descend, that's just what I use. It's about 120 miles. I'll start my way down, and I'll start at roughly 2,000 feet per minute on the descent rate, instead of doing like a managed descent or open descent, which you can't really. You can do an open descent. Open descent in the Airbus, you would pull the heading knob, and that's going to tell the airplane to descend as fast as it can while maintaining your current speed, whether that's managed speed or selected speed. And then managed speed, it would bob and pivot based off of the calculated glide path that it would need. But this airplane doesn't have VNAV, so I just do vertical speed. You'll see other guys, I think, if you follow 320 Sim Pilot, who's a real life 320 pilot, I think he puts it into either managed or open descent. V1 Simulations, I think, does the same. I don't know about Blue, but I like to control my descent rate, so I'd use vertical speed. I do look forward to learning the FMS computer when I get to the heavy aircraft. The nav map to determine my descent. On that, I have no idea how to determine it. Yeah, it's definitely a lot harder to. I think that's probably part of the reason that's kept me away from GA aircraft is the lack of all the fancy avionics. Although they look intimidating and complex, I think it's way easier to fly this airplane than the DA-62. I'm sure there's a lot of that same functionality within the G1000. I know the G1000 is great. I just don't have a lot of experience with it. A bunch of my friends do. I'll be lucky to figure out how to put in direct using the G1000, like direct to my destination airport. That's how little I fly GA stuff. I have tried the working title CJ4 a little bit. I can always figure out the system. I can figure out like how to start the airplane and all that stuff, but it's the navigation I struggle with. So I feel you. Like, I feel like it's a lot more work or a lot more laborious to put in a route using the G1000, having to spin all the little things versus just typing it in like the McDo. But airliners are surprisingly easy to learn. You could probably have the FMS or the McDo, depending on which type of airplane, same thing. You probably have that figured out in a matter of a YouTube video. It's not hard at all. It's just the formatting in airplanes are different. Obviously, like Airbus and Boeing are very different. Embraer is extremely different. Embraer, I'm not crazy about. I have a good buddy of mine who went to high school together. He was a few years younger than me. But anyways, he was the same way. I got him FSX, tried it out. He went up for a discovery flight. He was hooked like a starving catfish, and now he's flying for Compass Airlines. I think he recently applied at my airline. But anyway, I had an Embraer on some simulator, and I was asking him, I was like, hey, I can't, this thing, like, it's really weird. He likes it, but, you know, he's trained on it, and he understands it, and anybody's going to be comfortable with what they already know, what they understand. So it's just a matter of figuring out, like, once you're ready for airliners, what I would say is, and I guess it's based off of whatever airliners are available on the sim, but pick which airplane you want to start with, and then just hammer down on that airplane. I used to be a huge Boeing guy. Then I started dispatching at my company. We have a lot of Airbuses, so I had to learn Airbus, and I had to learn the logic, and the logic was way different to me. For example, Boeing on the autopilot panel, if you want to go LNAV, Boeing has a button that says LNAV. If you want to go VNAV, Boeing has a button that says VNAV. They have a button for everything, so it's straightforward. You just tell the airplane, do this, and as long as you have your FMS programmed correctly, it'll do it. Airbus logic is different. It was confusing to me at first, but I was flying in the cockpit one day in one of our airplanes, and I was talking to the captain about it, and I was like, hey, I just can't understand the dual functioning knobs, because as you can see, you can pull it out and you can push it in. They do different things. And so the captain told me, and I'll never forget this, I guess it's like math, when you finally have someone who can tell it to you in a way that clicks. That's what this guy was for me. The dual functioning knobs, assuming you have the McDo or the FMS programmed, if you want the airplane to do what is programmed in the McDo, you'll push the knob in and say, I'm giving it to you, the airplane. If you are trying to tell the airplane to do what you want it to do as the pilot, you pull the knob as in give it to me, the pilot. So, for example, if I want to fly a heading mode, or if I want to fly a heading, then I'll pull the knob like I, the pilot, am telling you to fly to a heading of 308. Boom, there it goes. But if I want to give it back to the airplane and it fly what I programmed in the computer, I'm going to give it to you, the airplane. I push the knob in and it goes back into LNAV, or back into nav mode in Airbus terms. For your speed, it's the same thing. So if you want managed speed, which is the speeds that you have programmed in the McDo, I'm trying to remember where. No, perf. There we go. All right, so we're in cruise. We're in the cruise page. So the managed speed is 272, which is where we're at right now, because we're in managed speed mode. So since that's what's in the McDo, if I push the speed knob in, I'm telling the airplane, I want you, the airplane, to fly what's in the McDo. If I want to tell it to fly whatever speed I want, I'm going to pull the knob as in I'm pointing to myself and tell it to fly 260 or whatever you want. Then I want to give it back to the airplane, push the knob in. It's back in. And then you got a couple different functions on the with the altitude knob as well. We have managed descent, open descent, as well as managed climb, open climb. Managed climb, it's going to fly. This one I've got to remember. And everything is based off of your weight and CG and winds and temperatures and all kinds of stuff. But managed climb is just gonna have a nice gradual climb, and it's going to mind all the constraints that are on your route, like your altitude constraints. But if I want to go into an open climb, where I want it to climb as fast as it can, I'll pull the knob, say open climb. Well, it's not going to do anything because we're in cruise. But I would pull the knob, and that's going to tell the airplane fly as fast as or climb as fast as you can while maintaining the speed that is either selected or managed, and it'll do that. But open climbs and open descents ignore constraints. So that's the big thing with those, is you have to make sure you're very cautious of what mode you're in, because you might bust an altitude constraint. Let's see. Nothing I can't learn. Trying not to cram my head with too much info. Yeah, you can definitely kind of overwhelm your brain, and then you start losing some interest in simming. Alright, so let's see where we're at now. Flight plan, we got 197 miles to go. We'll start our descent around 120. We do have some constraints coming up. We'll try to meet them. No promises, since we're going to be at vertical speed. Zulu Makratira, what's up, my buddy? My boy Rio. He is a fellow dispatch co-worker and best friend of mine. Rio, thanks for stopping in, my friend. Hope work wasn't too gnarly for you last night. Alright, on the arrival, so we got the Nashville transition, Cape Girardeau, and then above, flight level 310 at 280 knots at Delight. We should be able to make that. We're at 272 right now. Continue the descent, boosh above 14,000 at 280 knots. Cue ball. Alright, so since we're getting close, let's treat this like how the real pilots would. The pilots always do something called a approach briefing. So let's do the approach brief. Alright, so we are planning to come in on the Boosh 3 arrival, and as we just talked about, VNA transition, which we've already passed, Cape Girardeau, and then in the real world, the pilots would brief every single altitude and speed. They just basically say it out loud. You can see it all here, so it won't do it too much. But at OJ, 280 knots, above 11,000, below 15,000. PTs? I guess that's how you say it. Peats? P's? I don't know. P's? Whatever. Below 11,000, above 10,000. And then at letter, 210 knots, 8,000, 7,000. At RIP, 210, above 5,000. And then J-Buck, 210 at 5,000. And from here, that's where we would get our vectors for the approach, and we'll swing for the upwind. Once we are planning to land on the ILS 12 right. Frequency is 125.02, correction, 109.7. This is the ATIS. So 109.7 is the frequency. Final approach course is 123 degrees. Tudney is the final approach fix at 2,400 feet, which is 1860 off the ground. ILS decision altitude 740, which is 200 feet off the ground. This is a precision approach when we fly the ILS, so we'll be using the decision height of 200 feet, AGL. Touchdown zone elevation is 540 feet. Some of this we probably won't be able to do because we don't have like all the, I don't know how to word it. It's like you don't have the LNAV capabilities and stuff, since this is not like a full-fledged study level or high fidelity airplane. But we climb to 5,000 on the St. Louis VOR, radio of 128 to Fonte, intercept DME 22.4 to St. Louis and hold. Probably what we're going to do, if we go around, we will go around and then just swing it right back and try again. Probably the only reason that we would go around today is if for whatever reason I'm not stable on the approach, we'll break the approach and try again. So obviously in the States, transition out to 18,000 feet. We have a standard 30-degree glide slope with approach lights, PAPI on the left, and on the missed approach 5,000. We'll come back around and try it again. Minimums for this approach: we need 200-foot ceilings, that's AGL, and half-mile viz. Pretty sure we have that, but we will pull the Addons and check. Once we land on 12 right, we have, so this is not usable. Where are the notes? I can't remember where to go to find. So anyways, we can only use what's between this line and this line. So we don't have the full 11,019 feet. It's probably on a different page, but I'm not going to bother digging for that. So we'll just say we've got 10,900 feet of dry groove runway, as long as the weather checks out as it's forecasted to. Once we land, we'll aim for either taxiway November or taxiway Mike, and then into the ramp from there. Terrain is no factor. We'll pull the Addons, check for weather. Let's do that now. Where I got it in. Hitting a little chop. Come on, Addons. We're looking for a company message. There it is. That means we've got an ACARS message. Alright, so we've got information Papa 1951Z, which was just a few minutes ago. 1955Z right now. 190 at 11, gusting 2-1. 10 statute miles, clear skies. Temperature's 30, dew point's 14, altimeter 3001. Visual approach, runway 12 left, and 11 is in use. Departing 12 right. What do we put in here? I actually may put, 12 right. So, I'm scared to swap this. I don't know how good their new fly-by-wires flight plan manager in the McDo is. You know what, I'm just not going to mess with it because I'm afraid we've already passed some waypoints on the arrival, or at least the transition, so I'm afraid it might try to route us back, and then we're just going to erase this and we're going to bootleg it. We'll manually put in the frequency for 12 left, that way we track to that one. No, we're just going to leave 12 right. Sorry. Now, if we were flying the Phoenix, I would be completely comfortable changing everything because I know it would do what it's supposed to do. But this probably won't, since it's experimental version. Messages. Let's print this out. So wind is a factor. As far as weather goes. Obviously no convective activity. The winds are definitely a reason that could make us unstable in the approach and force a go around. So on the perf, altimeter is 3001, temperature is 30, winds 190 at 11. When putting this in, obviously you can't put any gusts. There's no spots for it. Transition altitude 18,000 feet. And a radio altimeter. So Baro would be used for non-precision approaches like RNAVs, localizer approaches, anything basically not an ILS. Radio is for precision approach. So we're going to 200, which is the minimums. Since we are planning the ILS to 12 right, maybe a side step over to 12 left if we're feeling frisky. But we will arm the ILS push buttons and we'll go auto brake low. This one says above 31 will be there. Alright. So we're just going to hang out here a little bit longer before we start our way down. No expectations of a perfect flight here. Yeah. I try to hold myself to a high standard. between, I don't know, working in aviation. Granted, I'm not a trained pilot. And I've flown some small single engine props a handful of times, landed a couple times, but I feel like since I work in professional aviation, and I've been doing this for like 12 years, 13 years, I hold myself to the standard that I should be able to conduct a mostly perfect flight. Sometimes on a live stream, I get a little nervous. I mess up. Honestly, not even so much that I get nervous, but there's so much like multitasking that you're having to do, trying to, you know, do your intros and, you know, all the production type stuff, trying to get everything set up, make sure you got your like wing view set up, and that the flying stuff ends up becoming a lesser part of the focus. Oh, and Grover, speaking of, don't forget the actual Airbus flight sim. Oh yeah, that is true. I had really good fuel planning when I first started at my airline, and as a reward, because my managers knew how geeked out I am on this stuff, they gave me 30 minutes in one of our training sims. I know FedEx charges $1,000 an hour for an MD-11 sim, so, and that's an hour. So for me to get 30 minutes on hours, I'm sure would cost something pretty expensive. So I was very excited just to have the opportunity to do that. And the instructor was super cool. Like, since I've done a lot of this and I know a lot about the airplane, takeoffs and landings was just like too easy, I guess. So I was like, hey, how about like I do a real short, like full flight, Colorado Springs to Denver, something I can do in 30 minutes. He was like, all right, yeah, sure. So put the airplane in Colorado Springs at the gate. We were in a cold state, so everything was on and powered up and aligned and all that kind of stuff. So all I had to do was program the McDo, get everything set up in the airplane, start the APU. We pushed out. The guy who built my other computer, he was in the left seat and I flew right seat. That guy's missing an arm. He's missing his right arm, so kind of had to be in the right seat. But I prefer the right seat anyway. As you can tell, we fly on the wrong side here at Wrong Side Simulations. But yeah, we pushed out, started up the engines, taxi, took off. I will say that the side stick was way more sensitive than I anticipated. Way more sensitive. I mean, you just barely move that side stick and you start feeling the wings flutter, and it's very, very sensitive. Yeah, and then landed in Denver. It was quite a buttery landing. I was very proud of myself. Taxied in the whole 9 yards. It was a lot of fun. And I hope that one day I get to do it again. Let's see where we're at. So we're crossing D-Light in 4 miles. Draw this down some. Cool. Alright, so I'm going to go speed her up to 280 to meet that constraint. So, talking about the push-pull, I want to tell the airplane to fly 280 knots, so I pull the knob, and then I can tell it how fast to go. So as you can see, we're accelerating. We are close to overspeed, but it's not very windy. We do have a straight up headwind at 38 knots, but it hasn't been like turbulent, so I'm not too worried about the speed tape accelerating into the red. That does happen in real life, especially if you're crossing the Rockies or something like that. When they're flying fast and they're high, they'll be kind of pushing that red line, and then turbulence will make them go into the red line for a very short period. But nonetheless, it's not a good thing, and they have to try to avoid that. Alright, so we're at 147 miles. We have a constraint at Bouche, which is 20 miles away, to be above 14,000 at 280. So we'll go ahead and start bringing her down. And we'll start with 2,000 feet per minute. we'll see how that starts to look. As we start to come down, this red line will start to recede, and we really won't have to worry at all about overspeeding. But yeah. So talking about the computers that we were talking about earlier, my buddy who built my last computer, which was far less capable than the one I got over here, I ran it for like 4 or 5 years, never had a problem, not a single problem. And I've had this one for a year, and about 3 weeks ago, I've been off work for 25 days. I think today's day 25 out of 25. I'll go back to work tomorrow. Not excited about it. So about 25 days ago, I was trying to stream. I was trying to do this sort of a flight. I was trying to go to St. Louis and do a review of this airport, and it kept crashing the desktop. In fact, I had a stream going right before this one that crashed the desktop, and you're actually in take number 2. So far, so good. So yes, I was getting a bunch of crashed desktops and blue screens of death, and no matter what game I played, whether it was Microsoft Flight Sim or Arma or DCS or anything. In fact, I even got a way to play 007 GoldenEye on a computer from the Nintendo 64. A 1997 game on a 3080. Obviously, computer shouldn't have a problem, right? Crashed desktop. So something was wrong. Had a slight issue with my VRAM. They basically popped them out, put them back in. I did add 2 sticks of RAM myself. It was probably like user error. I probably didn't pop it in all the way. And we swapped out the SSD because the one that was in there turned out it became known that type of SSD or that brand was problematic with like not being able to have a bootable device when you turn on your computer and stuff. So basically all we did was swap out the SSD and pop out the VRAM, pop it back in, and supposedly that's fixed everything, but time will tell. Alright, so 1 mile from Boosh. Ooh, that's going to be tight making that constraint. So less than 15,000 and above 11,000. So we're going to have to increase our descent rate. So we're going to throw out the spoilers and steepen that descent. Whoa. I would love to see SATCOMs. SATCOM dome on top. I always think those are sexy. Shut up. Alright, so we're going to be pretty hard pressed to meet that. So we're 8 miles from cue ball, and OJ is not far behind that, so I doubt we're going to meet that constraint. We'll try. Hitting some bumps, we'll turn the seatbelt sign on, plus we're already descending. We're still maintaining speed, so we'll increase that descent rate. Now the actual way to descend really fast in an Airbus is backwards from what you would think, and it's extremely effective. What you would do is you would, like, if you're flying level, stay level, slow your speed down. So like you'd pull the knob, go to selected speed, and slow down to like 250 knots. Put in your altitude that you want, so in this case 14,000 feet. Pull the altitude knob to give you open descent, so it'll descend as fast as it can, and then speed up. Like you would literally like spin, they call it spin it up. You would spin the speed knob up to 280 knots, and that will make the airplane descend. It'll steepen the nose because it's pitching for descent, or it's pitching for speed, sorry. It'll pitch for speed and it accelerate downwards, and it'll come down extremely fast. One of my pilots was telling me that his captain while they were going into, I think, Bogota, Colombia. Showed him that, and he said he was like hands on the dash, like holding himself back because it was such a steep descent that it was pretty gnarly. 6 miles from OJ. Definitely ain't gonna make that. Good thing we're not on Batsim. I thought about doing Batsim today. Let's see. Common troubleshooting steps. Reseat the RAM. Did that. I'm thinking of going with Radeon since I know it's built to play AMD chips, not to build a Ryzen 9 machine. And that's another thing I like have no experience with, or like no knowledge of. If I'm reading somebody's specs of their computer in YouTube, and it's like all Ryzen stuff, no idea. Like I have no idea what a 3080 is in Ryzen. So I guess it's kind of the same thing in airplanes. Like you might know about a type of airplane, like Boeing, and then not know shit about Airbus. That was me. Back before I got this job. I think you need a barf bag after that ride. Maybe. I don't know. I've had a couple somewhat steep descents. I've flown an airplane hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of times. I used to date a girl in Canada, and I would fly from my hometown in Monroe, Louisiana. I'd fly from Monroe to Atlanta, then up to either St. Louis or Kansas City, somewhere like in the direction of Minneapolis. So Monroe, Atlanta, Atlanta, St. Louis, Minneapolis, Minneapolis to Winnipeg. Every other week for 2 years. So I've flown way too much. Oh, girlfriend's calling. Everybody stand by.
Mic off. Mic feedback off. Mic on. Mic feedback on.
Alright. Sorry about that, guys. You know, when the queen calls, you better answer, otherwise, why ain't you pick up my phone call? So altimeter is 3001 in St. Louis. Sweet. Let's reset the standby. This one moves a lot faster. Alright, let's check out our constraints. So below 11 and above 10. We're not even below 11 yet. We'll just keep on coming down. See what's next. Let's see, below 9, above 8. So we'll put it down to 8. Or I'm sorry, below 9, above 8, yeah. And I don't think we're going to make that one either, especially since we just leveled off. What happens when you get task saturated? Should have been just looking at the chart instead. So letter is going to be 210s. We'll try to start slowing down. Yeah, I've been dating my girlfriend now for over 3 years, and I'm still learning the priorities. I'm still learning to just not fight the process and fight nature, to just go with it. What they say, a happy life, or happy wife, happy life, although she's just a girlfriend. Same rules apply. Alright, so there's downtown. Somewhat see the arch. See it down there. Doesn't look very good from this far away. You know, I thought they said that they increased the like render distance, but from the bit I've flown since World Update 6, it doesn't look that way. There's 10,000, landing lights coming on, wing lights, and ding the flight attendants. Low 8 above 7 on the next one. We're going to level off, bleed off some airspeed. This is why I don't like flying constraints manually, because I always end up being high or low. It just never works. Usually just do my 120 rule and just come on down. Alright, approach checklist. Briefing is complete. Approach stable by. So it's supposed to be touchdown zone plus 1,000 feet. So that's going to be 1,540 feet, and that's MSL, where you just do 1,000 feet AGL, which is the easiest thing to do because you got the radio altimeter going. ECAM status is checked. Seat belts are on. Minimums 200 feet set. Engine anti-ice is 1. Engine anti-ice 1 and 2 are off, and altimeter is 3001 set. Approach checklist is completed. Alright, now let's bring her on down. So we are below flap 1 speed. We could go flaps 1 right now if we wanted to. I just want to hang out here right now because I anticipate probably go faster than that while I'm trying to come down. 5,000. We still got the boards out. This is St. Charles, Missouri. One of my favorite bars is right down here on the river. They got, what is it, like dill pickles, or like pickle shots. They're 80 proof. Oh my god, they're so good. Shoot them like one after another. I love pickle juice. Alright, we can slow our descent. Well, we're going to level off at 5. And then we'll bleed off our airspeed, and once we get below our flap 1 speed, we'll go ahead and drop flaps 1. Speaking of steep descents, I love watching videos of tactical landings. Hell yeah. That's not landing, that's falling out of the sky to the runway, pretty much. And one night, I was leaving work, back when I worked for Delta, out on the ramp. And I was walking to my truck, and I see out in the distance on approach on runway 4, I'll never forget, like Monroe gets, speed checks flaps 1, Monroe does not get big airplanes at all. Like the biggest airplane we might see is a 737 charter for a football team, maybe 7.5s back when Allegiant had those. So seeing a big airplane on approach was a big deal. So I immediately turn around, I run back into ops, go out on the ramp to watch, and it's nighttime, so I can't really see like anything other than landing lights. Plane comes in. I mean, it's a steep approach. Comes in, lands. I see the formation lights are on, the green formation lights, and I realized, holy shit, that's a C-17. I was blown away. C-17 touching down in little old Monroe, Louisiana. If you ever seen Duck Dynasty, where those guys are from, that's where I'm from. If that paints a picture for you. Alrighty. So I don't know what this, I don't like this satin. That's a transition onto the approach. Probably not going to go all the way there. Once we get parallel to Pauley,
we'll just go direct Pauly. Right now we'll put her in the heading mode. We'll hold this heading. And I'll try to control the start of the turn myself, because this thing, it doesn't calculate the turn, it just calculates the direct too, so it's not a true LNAV system yet. So I still like to try to kind of help the airplane a bit by shallowing off the turns. And once it gets pointed that direction, we'll go direct. So you can see we're in heading mode. We're turning towards Pauly. New Jersey. Alright, now let's go direct. Insert. Make sure we're in LNAV. We are in nav mode, as you can see on the annunciator. The FMA. Thing we could do to help us out, we could have this in here. We're 16.7 miles from the threshold of the runway. We'll go ahead and speed her down to 190 knots. That'll get us below flaps 2 speed. We can go ahead and put in our flaps 2 once we get below it. I think a big difference you'll find in my streams compared to other streams, I gotta get better about it because it's not very cinematic. There's speed, or flaps 2 speed right there. We're below that, so we can go flaps 2. Let's pull up the plate. .2400 feet final approach fix. So let's go 3,000 on the localizer, so we'll track that. Right down to 180. And typically what I like to do is I like to go 170 to 7, which means 170 knots until 7 mile final. And that's usually a good rule of thumb. Ooh, we are real close to overspeed. Let's come on, there we go. Shallow walk this descent, that way it'll capture the glide slope. I love pickles. I don't blame you there. Cheaper is always better until you get that right level of buzz, and then you don't care anymore. Then you start spinning. Alright, glide slope star. So right now we're at 180, 12 miles. We're on the localizer, we're on the glide slope. We'll go ahead and spin it down to 170. And this is where I get the 170 to 7 from. It's back in the arc. Here. Alright, so our missed approach altitude is 5,000 feet. So put that in. We got speed, glide slope, localizer, Cat 3 single. I don't want that, I want Cat 3 dual. I could be in the wrong buttons. Alright, glide slope, localizer, Cat 3 dual, autopilot 1 and 2 engaged. Perfect. Looking really good. I don't like how this line is offset from the runway. It's a good thing we weren't RNAVing or GPS approach. So at 7 miles, we'll go gear down, flaps 3, and then ride it the rest of the way in.
But a big difference between my streams and other people's streams is they do a lot of cinematic stuff. They're outside the cockpit a lot. I get very focused, especially on a shorter flight like this. I get very focused what's going on inside the cockpit. And that's even why I have this whole view right here set up, is because this is what you're looking at the most when you're flying an airliner the true way you're supposed to. Alright, so here comes 7 miles, so we will go gear down. Arm spoilers. Flaps 3. Alright, we got on the approach. I should have done that a long time ago. Approach mode. Manage speed, so it's going to go down to our VREF, which is our target speed for landing. We're being the flight attendants. Say we've been cleared to land.
Attendants, please prepare for landing.
Turn those lights on and we'll go flaps full. At 1,000 feet, we'll take over. We want to be stable by 1,000. So you want to be on the approach, and your descent rate should not exceed more than 1,000 feet per minute.
1,000.
So we're 1,000. We're still at 1,000 feet or less. We are hand flying. Landing checklist. Cabin crews advised. Auto thrust speed. Auto brakes low. EKM landing. All green gears down. Signs on auto. Ground spoilers arms and flaps config full. Landing checklist is complete. You also probably don't want to do that while you're hand flying an airplane. We would want to do that before.
500. 500.
A little bit of a quartering crosswind from the right side.
400. 300.
I like to aim the nose at the piano keys and then flare. Once you're close, you know you're clear of any obstacles. I want to look a little low. That's okay.
Minimum.
There's minimum. Let's continue.
$100.
Flaring at 30 feet.
50. 40. 30. 20. Retard. 5.
Touchdown. Spoilers, reverse green, decel. Manual braking, 60 knots, stow the reversers. Alright everybody, welcome to St. Louis. We'll stop right here at this line, and then we will clean up the aircraft. Cool. Parking brake is set. Alright, predictive wind shear. Or radar predictive wind shear. Disarm the spoilers. Flaps up. TARA on the TCAS. Flight director's ILS constraints all come off. VORs are optional. I like to have them off. The lights set. Cool. And we'll start the timer for the 3-minute cool down for the engines after coming out of reverse. After landing checklist, exterior light set, flaps retracted, TCAS standby. Engine mode selectors normal, ground spoilers disarmed, radar predictive wind shears off. Since we're crossing this runway, turn the lights back on. I think you can tell by that wind socket, a little bit of a quartering headwind. I was showing 11 knots on short final. It's less than the, actually, what was it? I think the weather was 190 and 11. So yeah, that's pretty much dead on. Alright, so we're clear of the runway. Lights come back off. I got those bound to a button. We got to give the engines 3 minutes to cool off. Once you hit those 3 minutes, then if you want to do a single engine taxi, you can do that. So single engine taxi in an Airbus, it's pretty easy. All you'd have to do is come up to the overhead, turn on the electric yellow pump, or the yellow electric pump, and then shut down engine 2. That way you still have hydraulic pressure going to the nose wheel steering, which I'm pretty sure that's not modeled. So if you didn't have the pump on and you shut down engine 2, your nose wheel steering will still work. Besides, this thing just uses rudder anyway. The tiller on here is terrible. On the like the axis for the tiller that they have in Microsoft Flight Sim is not great. It does paint the picture. Right, I'm gonna approach for a right Patterson. Oh, that's sick. You can see 17 all sorts. Oh, that's awesome. Unless it's super active chat night, I actually get bored and don't watch much streams. Well, I appreciate you appreciating. I tried. That was one of the biggest reasons that I wanted to start streaming was, I mean, over my years I've learned quite a bit, and I know there's a lot of new folks in the sim world, so I'd like to share the little bit that I know. This is not the add-on scenery. Bruh. I came here to do a scenery review, and it's not installed. I probably have to like open the folder that went into the community folder and pull whatever's out of there. Alright, so there's 3 minutes. So now we can turn on the yellow electric pump and shut down engine number 2. Delta usually parks in this terminal, and this would be like A12 or A10. Remember departing the Alpha gates a lot when I flew Delta out of St. Louis all the time. Here we are, parking brake set. We can now turn off the yellow electric pump. We don't need to bleed. We can shut down engine 1, kill this stupid message that comes up. Turn that to standby. Beacon off. Seatbelt signs off. Fuel pumps off. And now we can unlock the door. And we'll get the jet bridge called up. Alright, so parking checklist. Slides disarmed. That's something the flight attendants would do on their flight attendant panel. And it would show in the cockpit. Engines off, seatbelts off, exterior lights set, ice protections off, fuel pumps off, yellow electric pump off, chalk signal has been received, parking brake is on. Parking checklist is complete. I don't know why this thing keeps on rotating. Well, guys, I appreciate y'all hanging out. Just let me catch up on these comments real quick. I don't want to ignore y'all. Let's see. Well done, Captain. Oh, my girlfriend's calling. Let's see, Rio, beautiful flight as always. Thank you, sir. I'm dying to find some conga lines with y'all once I get the upgrade. And Zulu, true, let's do it. Yeah, Grover, subscribe, man, and we can stay in touch on here. And Rio, the Zulu Mocketeer guy, he also flies Flight Sim a lot. We actually, him and I do some shared cockpit flights where we do checklists together and that kind of stuff. We have there's a video on my channel a little ways down. I've only got like I don't have many videos, so it wouldn't be hard to find. But him and I both did a shared cockpit flight in the Airbus, doing checklists and the whole 9 yards. It was our first attempt at it. We're going to do it again here pretty soon. But if you ever want to fly with us, and hell, we'll jump down into some GA airplanes and just cruise around. We won't have to do anything super realistic and crazy. Sometimes it's just fun to fly with friends. So if you like, man, if you enjoyed this, I'd appreciate if you subscribe and stay in touch. And I work roughly 7 on, 7 off, so about every other week I'm streaming. And we'll definitely coordinate and get a flight going. I don't know if there's any DMs in here. Also, if you have Discord, I guess you can DM me in Discord. Let me see what my Discord name is. So my Discord name, I don't mess with Discord enough. It's Blake Roark 21. I'll put that in the chat. But I know there's numbers on here, right, that you need. I don't know. Oh, it says it's copied. Alright, let's see if this works. Oh, boom. But here we go. Alright, so if you have Discord and you want to shoot me a message on there and stuff, we'll coordinate. We'll definitely get some flying in. But alright, guys, well, I got to run. My girlfriend and I have to go to Costco. We're about to head out now. So thank y'all so much for stopping by. Grover, it's been awesome hanging out and chatting with you during the flight. It's pretty remarkably boring to stream to no one and have nobody to talk to, so I really appreciate you hanging out. It was a lot of fun. This is by far one of the funnest streams that I've had. So anyways, alright guys, y'all have a good day. Rio, you know, you and I will talk soon. I'll see you at work here in a couple, or actually I'll see you at work tomorrow night. Alright guys, y'all have a good one, and we'll see y'all next time.